Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dal, and this week, Mythic Plus Dungeons have hit a huge milestone for Season 3. With players finally reaching plus 20 Keystone difficulty for the first time this season, which is quite an achievement. With that, we also got weeks worth of data of us to take a look at regarding Mythic Plus, and it looks like this season is off to a very healthy start. And based off all of this data, we also have an idea of which classes, and better yet, which specs are doing the best for this season, especially for those of you that are pugging this season in particular. Pugging Mythic Plus in a given season is not easy, though most players don't have a pre-made group for them to run dungeons with, so pugging is the only solution they have when it comes to trying to get better and progressing throughout the season. However, certain playstyles of each and every class out there are a little bit more pug friendly and are having a much easier time overall based on the data that we have as of this week. So I wanted to use some data driven research to go over every single class spec that is having the easier time right now when it comes to pugging your Mythic Plus dungeons for the season. Whether you're looking to finish up all of your seasonal rewards and seasonal achievements, or potentially looking to play alts in the future, especially with so many alt friendly gearing options on the horizon. As always, if you guys want to see more regular videos such as these for the War Within expansion, be sure to follow the channel and subscribe. But otherwise, let's dive right in. Going over all the classes, I am going to go through them in alphabetical order, starting with the class of Death Knight, and of course, Frost Death Knight remains to be the strongest option when it comes to Mythic Plus content as of this moment, especially with the Deathbringer playstyle in particular. Frost is a superior spec for the entirety of the season. It seems to be the strongest spec out of potentially all melee classes in general so far. Some of the absolute best AoE damage that you can find for Mythic Plus dungeons. Really good single target, but also priority damage as Deathbringer, which is massive this season. Priority damage is huge, and being able to have some decent, very strong single target focus damage while cleaving everything around you for free is incredibly good right now. One of the best defensively, as just the class is super durable with IPF, AMS, Lichborn, Dome, but also grips are incredible. Grips are so nice for Mythic Plus dungeons. Just being able to grip casters together, or even use grips as like a pseudo interrupt, can be extra good. They shortened the cooldown on grip for all Death Knights in particular down to 15 seconds, which was previously 25 seconds, except for Blood Death Knight, which was the only spec with a short grip. But given that to Unholy and Frost in particular, has made him way stronger than ever before. Just bringing a Death Knight into a Mythic Plus dungeon feels like the dungeon just becomes much easier, and they end up being the most flexible melee class to bring into Mythic Plus in general. Even if you're not sure if you're playing like a very specific composition, just a random pickup group, bringing a Death Knight with a B-Res and all that utility is an incredible choice for most players out there. The next class we have is Demon Hunter, and while I'm very excited for the Devourer spec heading out in, midnight, I am very excited to see Havoc is performing super well. That being said, Havoc is definitely one of those specs that needs to go through some sort of a talent rework or a refresher. It's been a very long time, and there are even some bugs that are allowing the spec to be somewhat relevant, especially for PvP. That being said, until then, Havoc somehow did end up being very top tier and very popular for the season. It's gotten one of the strongest tier sets in general. Whether you play it as a Felskard or as Eldraki, it's very strong. It is a very strong tier set bonus that really amplifies and ramps up the damage that this spec can do. You also have very strong priority damage thanks to Eldraki passive of Wounded Quarry. It is really strong, just allows you to transform all that AoE damage into focus damage, which is great except in dungeons like Priory against that one mob that puts a shield on himself that can actually cause you to one-shot yourself when you hit that shield add. Good crowd control, great self-sustain, very mobile, and also the magic debuff that Demon Hunters provide with the Mythic Plus dungeons makes him very strong when you're trying to maximize the amount of buffs and debuffs you bring in for that group play with other magic classes, pairing them together really well with even something like a Frost Death Knight, Arcane Mages, and really any other magic caster in general. The next class on the list is the Druid, and right now Druids are really strong, especially when it comes to their overall utility. The amount of tools they bring to any groups right now, between the versatility buff and all the other effects within their class challenge tree, are all very strong. So a Druid is something most groups are going to want to look forward to, and Rested Druid is one of the best this season. One of the strongest tier sets, exceptionally good if you're playing the Wild Stalker playstyle as well with the Symbiotic Blooms gameplay. It is very strong. Damage is also not that bad because hybrid play is somewhat important within Mythic Plus content, though not nearly as much for Resto Druid compared to some of the other DPS-oriented healers, but still they can do a lot of damage as well, as Tarka does provide you some of this hybrid capability. And it seems like Resto Druid seems to be one of the more popular healers generally for the season. Next, we have the class of the Evoker, and right now for the season, Devastation seems to be the front runner for the entire spec. Even though I personally enjoy Preservation, Dev has definitely got a lot of numbers, and what really makes this class super strong for Mythic Plus right now is that huge burst damage, but also really good sustained damage. Part of the burst comes from the Flame Shaper Engulf mechanic, where you're able to erupt your fire breaths into massive bursts, but also you have a lot of sustained with abilities like Firestorm and Pyre, so you actually have a really solid profile for this season. As Evoker, you also bring some unique utilities that only you bring in that other classes do not. With a lot of shields like Twin Guardian, you also got Zephyr, which is a very good in some situations for AoE damage. And you also have a unique mechanic of Flame Shaper with Life Cinders, where Renew and Blaze can apply to another target at half value. And with a cooldown reduction of Fire Within, you're able to actually get a fairly strong on-demand targeted defensive that you could share with another ally in Mythic Plus, which is what helps him be a little bit of the support gameplay type of a caster, and with the damage that provided overall, it makes him a very potent playstyle choice for Mythic Plus dungeons. From there, we move on to the class of Hunter, which is leading the pack right now as one of the more popular ranged DPS classes. Marksmanship in particular is the better choice for the class of Hunter in general. Even though Beast Mastery got a couple of buffs, Marksmanship still continues to be a very, very popular pick, unless we see some kind of a huge swing in the future, but for now, seems to have secured a really good spot. This is generally one of those specs that's actually a recommended go-to for your most casual player. So if you're someone who just wants to play Mythic Plus in the most casual way possible, Marksmanship is the best option. Right now, they have some of the best choices for builds, as they actually have build variety. Whether you want to go full AoE build with a Sentinel, or a more single-target oriented build with Dark Ranger, which means that they have a good type of builds for different Mythic Plus dungeons, and they can fulfill multiple different roles. Like if you don't have a priority single-target class, Marksmanship can take that role, or if you already have single-target classes, they can just crank in some of the most AoE damage out there, which makes them very, very good. They also have some of the best bursts in the game, so any targets that need to be nuked down immediately, Marksmanship is the best at eliminating those targets, and that is the niche right now when it comes to bringing them for Mythic Plus dungeons, which makes them stand out from every other range class out there. When it comes to mages, right now, no surprise, Arcane has been dominating this entire season again, so it seems like they're just going to continue dominating from Season 2 into Season 3, unless you see a huge set of tunings to let Frost or Fire potentially be more competitive. I think Arcane is still going to be wearing that crown. Right now, they are one of the best S tier, top tier, the best of the best range classes for Mythic Plus, hands down, easily. Some of the biggest bursts out there in the game, and the king of priority damage, which is so highly valuable within Mythic Plus content. Mages generally bring some of the best utility for 5-man content as well, from bloodlust defenses, as well as plenty of unique utility that no other class brings. And right now it's arguable that Arcane Mages may be one of the most competitive Mythic Plus range DPS classes as of this moment, and a staple of majority of group compositions, unless you're playing a melee heavy type of a group, unless you're experimenting with some of the more physical damage comps right now that are gaining a lot of traction for the season. When it comes to the class of Monk, their favorite choice for pugging right now is the Brewmaster, and I think this is the best version of Brewmaster we've seen in a very long time. Brewmaster has not always been a very popular pick for a while, especially with the last few expansions. Battle for Azeroth was the last time they really could shine, but right now they're actually really good. Incredibly durable, some of the best damage output in the game, some of the best consistent defensive options out there, and the class just feels a lot tankier than ever before, which has been a pretty big issue with it, generally speaking, being very heavily reliant on healers, though not anymore as of the patch 11.2. This is also a really strong class to put together with any melee and physical damage compositions, so if you're playing around with certain classes that can benefit from your Mystic Touch debuff, it actually ends up being one of the best choices as well if you're trying to maximize your value when it comes to some of the raid buffs and raid debuffs that you could bring into Mythic Plus content. The next class on the list will be Paladin, and it really came down to a choice between Retribution and Protection, though I want to say Protection is in a much better spot when it comes to Pugging, mostly because of the utility that it can bring and the fact that it performs much better at some of the more difficult high-end content. Protection Paladins are incredibly highly valued right now for their incredible mob control. While they may not be the hardest hitting tank or potentially the strongest defensively, their ability to lock down enemies with ease is insane right now. This combined together with Paladin, Protection in particular, bringing some of the best utility within 5 main content, from a variety of different Blessing of Freedom and Blessing of Protection, or potentially Blessing of Sacrifice, with some of those blessings actually able to bypass and even ignore and break certain enemy mechanics, making them no longer nearly as deadly. Even summoning a Blessing of Sacrifice together with just a Sacrifice of the Just for a shorter cooldown can be hugely massive. Off healing is also really good. The buffs it provide is also very solid. And just overall, it's just a very strong position right now when it comes to tanking content for the moment in M+ dungeons. When it comes to the class of Priest, right now, Shadow Priest is the more optimal choice when it comes to Pugging, at least for the very moment. Generally, the rework they've gotten, yet another rework, for the patch 11.2 has been good for this class in particular. We're leaving them with fairly good amount of AoE damage. The fact that Shadow Crashes have 2 charges now is super nice. It allows them to spread that Vampiric Touch as well as Shadow Word Pain super easily across multiple enemies very rapidly. But the priority damage that they can output, together with that cleave capability of Psychic Link, makes them very strong for Mythic Plus dungeons in particular. They also bring some unique utility to the group, which varies depending on the strength, but right now at least it is decent enough, with things like Power Infusion, which can be split to multiple targets, themselves and another ally, which is a fairly strong buff. The Master Spell also offers extra dispel capabilities with their healers, which is useful right now in this current season, as well as Power Word Fortitude, which can be further amplified with Word of Supremacy, granting your ally even additional stamina, which is very good for survivability. I won't say it is the greatest kit, but right now it is very solid, and Shadow Priest I think is underrated, but it actually has a lot of potential for some incredible damage in very right situations. When it comes to the class of Rogue, right now Subtlety seems to be the most popular choice at the moment, though Assassination is a little bugged, so maybe once they fix those bugs it may change in the future, but right now Subtlety seems to be the best option, mostly because it has some of the best single target damage out there, some of the most impactful, high burst, high value with very short cooldowns, and what allows that damage to actually work well in Mythic Plus dungeons is if you play it as Trickster, that single target damage will cleave nearby targets. Without this talent combination, I don't know if Subtlety would have been able to survive, but the current setup they have right now for pure single target output is incredible. Together with Trickster, Nimble Flurry, additional Cleave, where single target abilities start to hit multiple targets, this is what lets them be actually competitive right now for the season. This combined together with huge defensive options that rogues have season to season makes them fairly durable and fairly reliable, and they also work really well with some of the melee compositions that become more popular this season in particular. When it comes to the class of the Shaman, Restoration right now is the king healing spec for Pugging Mythic Plus dungeons, especially together as the Farseer playstyle, which is finally viable this season, mostly thanks to the new tiers that they've gotten for Season 3 in particular, all causing your Ancestral Swiftness to summon a much more powerful version of an Ancestor that lasts a very long time, does a lot more healing as well as damage, which gives them a really good profile when it comes to just overall throughput, again, whether it comes to healing your allies or damaging foes. Shamans also bring some of the best 5-main utility and mob control in the game when it comes to a healer, which is why they're so good when it comes to Pugging. The amount of control you can exert over an entire group is insane. So you could basically just be almost solely in control of an entire enemy team or enemy trash pack. So you can be in. So in some cases, for certain dungeons, you can literally be completely in full control of an entire enemy trash pack with stuns, knockups, interrupts, and other effects in order to keep your allies alive by locking enemies down all on your own. The Sky Fury buff that they provide in groups is also really good, whether you play with a melee physical damage comp that does focus heavily on auto attacks, which benefits greatly from the buff, or with a Mastery, which many classes use as some of the best stats for damage out there, making them very highly valued, especially as the role of a healer right now for the season. When it comes to Warlocks, right now, Destruction seems to be the more popular pick for Pugging for a Season 3. Destruction by itself brings some of the best AoE damage in the game as of the moment, as well as really good sustained damage. They are a little bit lacking when it comes to the priority damage, which some of the other classes excel in, but it is still solid and nonetheless. They also are very durable, and some of the party utility they bring for M+ is solid. Whether you have the Warlock Hellstones or the Demonic Gateway, or the ability to have some amplified curses that could really reduce the effectiveness of certain enemies, they are very strong right now when it comes to just raw throughput, even if they don't necessarily do anything unique that some of the other classes do when it comes to overall endgame. When it comes to the class of warrior, if you're looking to play a tank that's literally unkillable, protection right now is the best option, making him right now probably one of the most reliable tanks in the game. And I really do think that this should be really overstated multiple times over. Literally the tankiest tank right now in the game, the most self-sufficient, the most reliable, and the one that's the easiest to heal right now for the season in particular. Protection also is a tank that does a ton of damage right now. The only tank that even matches close to that of a Brewmaster in terms of output, which is massive, as tank and damage contribution can be huge when it comes to trying to time some of those really difficult high-end keystones. Warriors also pair really well together because of the commanding shout buff, well, with the physical damage classes. So any class that deals physical damage or skills directly with their commanding shout is also hugely beneficial, which allows them to overlap this buff with some of the other classes out there for that physical or even a melee damage compositions to really shine and do a lot more damage than others with an M+ content. But with that being said, as always, I do want to thank all of you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys did enjoy the video. If you did enjoy it or found it informative, go ahead and give the video a like, as I would very much appreciate it. Also, be sure to join our Discord community, especially for some of the future upcoming content updates, such as Legion Remix and potentially Midnight Alpha. Let me know all your thoughts in the comments down below, and as always, I'll see all of you guys in the next one.